Chapter 19. The Rat Stranglers. The two rats' teeth chattered with fear as Spitfire rose from the Wizard Tower courtyard to a chorus of jeers and boos from the rat stranglers below. Jenna was concentrating too hard on remembering all she knew about dragonflight to pay much attention, but one shrill voice rose above the clamor. "She's in league with them! Didn't I tell you? It's her and that boat she brought here! Come on, boys!" Although the voice belonged to a tall, spiky-looking woman, the rat stranglers were mostly men and boys. "Come on, let's go sink it once and for all." There was an answering howl from the rest of the rat stranglers. Spitfire flew higher, and Jenna and Wolfboy saw the mob surge through the great arch and head off along the narrow lane that led to the boatyard. Underneath the dragon, the rats swayed perilously. "Donnie!" gasped the larger rat that was hanging onto Spitfire's tail, while the shorter, more rotund rat clutched onto his ankles. "Donnie, your claws are killing me! Do you have to hold on quite so tight?" "Do you think I am doing this for the fun of it, Stanley? What do you suggest I do? Let go and get killed by those fiends down there? Is that what you want?" "Ouch! No, don't be silly, dear. I just wondered if you could loosen your grip a little. I can't feel my feet." Spitfire swooped down low over the mob members, one of whom let fly a well-aimed trash-can lid. It skimmed toward the rat, spinning in the air like a flying circular saw. Stanley shut his eyes. This was it, he thought. What a way to go, seen off by a flying trash-can lid. But Spitfire had seen the missile hurtling toward them, and the last few weeks of avoidance training with Septimus, which he had hated, as it had involved Beetle throwing all manner of things at him, paid off. Like a true professional, Spitfire dodged the lid, and for good measure, gave it a hefty swipe with his tail. "Ah, Stanley! We're going to die!" Donnie screamed. Wolfboy, who was feeling quite sick, felt some sympathy for Donnie. Jenna took Spitfire at full speed to the boatyard. They flew over the rat stranglers, and Jenna reckoned they had about 5 minutes before the mob arrived at the boatyard. 5 minutes in which Jenna had to land Spitfire, get over to the dragon house, and somehow make it secure. Janet Martin was not at all pleased when she saw Spitfire heading toward her boatyard. The last time the dragon had turned up had been a complete disaster, brought about by the Heaps as usual. And now here it was again, no doubt with one of the Heap clan on board. As Spitfire flew low into the boatyard, Janet tried to direct the dragon to an empty space recently occupied by the port barge that Janet and Rupert Gringe had just launched. Spitfire ignored Janet. He didn't like people waving their arms at him and shouting, "Over here! Over here!" "Oh, gunwales and gimlets, what is the idiot creature doing?" Spitfire flew right over Janet's head, missing her by a hairbreadth, and landed on the pilot-house of an old trawler, which was in a rather delicate state. The pilot-house could just about withstand the odd seagull landing on it, but it had no chance against a dragon, whose total weight in seagulls was exactly 764. With a loud crack, the pilot-house collapsed, and Spitfire had his passengers found themselves in a pool of stagnant water in the trawler's hull. "Up, Spitfire, up!" yelled Jenna, giving Spitfire a hefty kick on the right. With some difficulty, accompanied by a lot of squeaking from the end of his tail, Spitfire flapped and clawed his way out of the hole in a rather undignified fashion, and landed beside the trawler. "Look what you've done!" protested Janet, arriving breathless beside the wreckage. "We could have repaired that. Rupert was going to make a start on it tomorrow. Now look at it." "I'm sorry, Janet," Jenna apologized, as she slipped down from Spitfire's neck. "I really am, but the rat stranglers are on their way to smash up the dragon boat." "Whatever for? She's not a rat." "I know," said Jenna rather curtly, leaving Wolfboy to keep hold of Spitfire. Jenna ran off toward the dragon house. Janet set off in pursuit. "Jenna!" she called out to her. "Jenna!" But Jenna did not stop. Janet was annoyed. She didn't like the sound of this. It was true that she had not been exactly thrilled when the half-boat, half-dragon had turned up, unannounced, in the middle of the night a few months back. But now that the dragon boat was in her boatyard, Janet considered it to be her responsibility, and no one messed around with Janet Martin's boats, especially not a bunch of thugs calling themselves rat stranglers. Janet liked rats. "Rupert," said Janet, waylaying Rupert Gringe, who was busy sawing wood. "Take as many yard hands with you as you can find, and close the tunnel gates. Put the bar across. Quick!" Rupert Gringe dropped what he was doing and went to do Janet's bidding at once. He knew when Janet meant business. The dragon boat lay at the end of the cut, until recently a dead-end piece of water that lay to the side of the boatyard, which had ended at the blank cliff face of the castle wall. Ever since Janet had had the boatyard, she had wondered what the point of the cut was. 3 months ago she had found out. She had woken in the middle of the night to find that a huge cavern had opened up deep into the wall at the end of the cut. Not just any old cavern, either, but a towering lapis lazuli hall, covered in golden hieroglyphics. Janet did not go in for opulence, and thought the whole thing was a bit of an embarrassment, but she could not help being impressed all the same. She doubted that any other boatyard in the world had such a place, or such a boat, and that made her proud. What dismayed Janet was that although she, Rupert Gringe, and Nico had repaired the dragon boat beautifully, so that you would never know the dragon had been hit by 2 thunder flashes, and had sunk to the bottom of the moat, the creature itself was still unconscious. The dragon lay with her head resting on the cool marble walkway on the side of the dragon house, her great green eyes closed, her breathing quiet and slow. Her tail had been carefully placed on a marble ledge at the back of the dragon house, neatly coiled by Janet and Nico, like a huge piece of green rope, and it had not moved since. A great clang reverberated through the yard as Rupert put the bar in place across the doors to the tunnel. A moment later, an even louder clanging and banging started up. The rat stranglers had arrived just in time to see the doors closed against them. "I'm not having that unruly mob in here wrecking my boats," said Janet, catching up with Jenna. They squeezed around a large stack of planks piled up against the great castle wall. Then they ran along a narrow path between 2 tall-masted boats in need of a new rigging, and quickly reached the entrance of the dragon house. With angry shouts and the sound of battering on the boatyard doors echoing across the yard, Jenna and Janet entered the quiet shadows of the dragon house. The dragon boat lay still, with her great head resting on Janet's one and only Persian rug, now somewhat charred, which was laid on the marble walkway along the side. Jenna knelt down and placed her hand on the creature's head, but the dragon, as ever, did not move. Her smooth scales felt cool to the touch, and the emerald eyes under her thick dark green eyelids did not flutter as Jenna gently stroked them. Janet stood back and watched Jenna. Even at a time like this, Janet did not like to interrupt whatever was going on between Jenna and the dragon boat. She was used to Jenna's moments with the dragon, but usually she kept well out of the way, for she felt that if she would be intruding if she came too near. Janet had noticed that the boatyard often fell silent when Jenna put her hand on the dragon, but not today. The sounds of the rat strangler systematically ramming the boatyard door filled the air. Janet wondered what Jenna thought she was doing, wasting time stroking the dragon when they ought to be setting up some kind of barricade in front of the dragon house. But she did not say so, for Janet had over the last few months become a little in awe of Jenna and her determination to wake the dragon boat. Suddenly Jenna sprang to her feet. "I think I heard her," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "What?" asked Janet, distracted by some inventive insults that Rupert Gringe was hurling at the rat stranglers. "The dragon! She was very faint, but I'm sure I did. We have to seal the dragon house." "How exactly?" snapped Janet, worried now, realizing that the mob was not going to go away and was unlikely to stop at smashing up just the dragon boat. "The way it was opened, with fire, dragon fire." And then Jenna's face fell as she remembered. "Oh," she said, "Spitfire can't do fire." "Yes, he can," said Janet, who had heard all about Spitfire's hatching from Nico. "Did it when he hatched." "That's just infant fire. All dragons do that when they're first hatched." The noise of splintering wood echoed through the boatyard. "They're nearly through the doors," said Janet in her matter-of-fact tone. "Not much time left. Excuse me, I'm going to go get my axe. If they're looking for trouble, they're going to find it." Jenna knew that there was nothing else to be done. She must try to ignite Spitfire. Taking her navigator's toffee tin from her tunic pocket, Jenna opened it and fished out the red piece of dragon skin. She unfolded it, and to her surprise and dismay, there was only one word on it: ignite. How could that possibly be enough? But Jenna knew she had to try. She raced back to Spitfire. "Excuse me, 409, said Jenna, breathless, clambering back onto Spitfire. Wolfboy began to climb up, too, but to his relief, Jenna said, "I've got to do this on my own. I've got to make Spitfire breathe fire." Spitfire pricked up his ears. "Fire? Now? But what about breakfast?" A chorus of yells rose from behind the boatyard door, and Rupert's voice could be heard shouting, "If you want rats, matey, you've got 'em. Great big ones with axes. Come on, then." As if in response to Rupert Gringe's kind invitation, the rat stranglers gave one massive heave at the door. There was a splintering crash, and the mob surged through. A tremendous noise erupted as a fight broke out at the gate. Rupert, Janet, and the yard hands put up a good fight and seemed to be winning, but a few of the rat stranglers evaded the hail of the blows. Led by the tall, spiky woman, they broke away, and brandishing an assortment of makeshift weapons, they headed toward the dragon house, yelling, "Get the dragon! Kill the dragon! Kill, kill, kill!"